Morning, listeners and viewers. Good morning.
Good morning, Ammar.
Hey, Jalf, how we doing?
Yes, good.
You all right? You sound a bit. Were you raving last night?
Nah, I wish I was.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a rave?
I think I've ever been to any parties in my life.
Yeah. I wonder what it's like.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning, listeners, viewers. You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM.
And each week we try and bring some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
We'll be talking shop, quite literally, not just corner shops where they look to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. And yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy, Jeff. 14th of June.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? How quick it flies.
And the world is changing so dramatically every single day. It's yeah. Anyway, let's get into business and show, because that's what it's all about. This week's headlines: unemployment rate is the highest for more than 2 years. So, Jeff, the BBC, so official figures show that unemployment rate has unexpectedly risen to its highest level for 2.5 years. The rate climbed to 4.4% in the 3 months to April, the highest since September 2021. However, wage growth remained strong, with earnings continuing to rise faster than prices. 22.3% of working age adults in the UK are deemed not to be actively looking for work, which is more than 9 million people. And the Office for National Statistics said this month's figures continue to show signs that the labour market may be cooling, with the number of vacancies still falling and unemployment rising, though earnings growth remains relatively strong. Regular earnings rose at an annual pace of 6%. The unemployment figure is at its highest since 2015, with the rise in long-term sick as a key factor. I'd like to discuss that with you, if I may, Jeff, because there's a couple of points in there, right? So, first and foremost, unemployment is, and it changed how they recorded it, right?
Mhm.
So they changed how they recorded unemployment a few years back.
Right. And how was that change made, Ammar?
So it was, I mean, basically, it was um, the number of people looking for work,
What is
right? And if you look at, so the number of people looking for work is 4.4%, right, of the overall workforce.
Mhm.
Well, 22.3% of working age adults. So nearly a quarter of adults who are at a working age, right? And that'll either be 18 plus or 21 plus. It'll be one of those two.
Right.
On actively looking for work.
So, but what are they going to do then? What are they actually doing? I'm quite interested in what they would be doing.
So either on benefits or and this is what I mean, the figures, right? It's great to say only 4.4% is unemployed or unemployed, whereas 9 million people, a quarter of the working population, aren't classified as unemployed because they're not looking for work.
Mm. Mm.
And there'll be a range of factors. There'll be real factors like, and all of them are real factors, but there'll be a range of factors. For example, the uh, um, people who care for others. They can't go to work, but there's actually long-term unemployed, and um, there's another categorization of inactive, so they're not actively looking for work for whatever reason.
Mm.
And I find that crazy, don't you?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm just baffled, to be honest, because these days I would have thought anyone, I mean, we've had this discussion before, anyone who's fit and healthy,
The
able to,
microphone isn't the best. Are you using someone else's device, or are you using a
no,
different?
it's just, no, it's the same. Everything's the same. I'm not sure if there's any connectivity issues or not, but
No, it
um,
wasn't a connectivity issue. It was more the sound. Normally, it's a lot clearer. But anyway,
let me put
and,
it up.
and interestingly, you someone else must have been using your phone because it came up with someone else's name on
Really?
on on Zoom. I've changed it back to Jaff, but it came up with Grazie's name
Oh,
on Zoom.
Graziella. Yeah, because she's away on holiday and she set me up on some meetings, Zoom meetings and stuff because I'm not very savvy when it comes to the tech stuff.
Fair enough.
So I just think that anyone who's fit and healthy, you need to really be able to do 50 hours of work a week because that's, and if you're earning the minimum wage, that takes you up to around about 30, just below £30,000 a year, which is, a decent enough income to have a decent living from, as opposed to just sitting there. I mean, I don't know what the government's dishing out these days in terms of a weekly benefit. What would it be? Something like the 70 quid a week mark, possibly. I've got no idea.
Well, they introduced universal credit. I think
Right.
no, it wasn't. Is it universal? Is it called universal? Let's just check. Make sure that our facts are right. Universal credit. Yeah, I rate. Hmm. So I don't know who's talking in the background, Jeff, but we can hear them.
Well, I can't stop them. They're on the they're on the phone. So
All right, okay, fair enough. Anyway, so according to this, if you're a single person aged under 25, you get paid £292 a month.
292 a month. So 300 quid a month. I wasn't that far off, was I? You would have think that I've been claiming the benefits. 75 quid a week. So I was kind of pretty close.
Yeah. Divided by 52. £67.41. If you are if you're aged over 25, you get paid £368.74,
Hmm. Okay.
which is £85.
Wow,
Um,
that's not bad, is it?
which what?
Not bad. 85 quid sitting there getting 85 quid. I mean, if you think about it,
Sitting there getting £85. You think that's like I think
well,
that's
you're getting it for nothing. It's like
okay.
85 quid.
But if
It's
you
like
if you're
85
up,
quid
I
you
I
were out.
get All right. If you're actively looking for work and if you genuinely can't find it, you've just been made redundant, it's wrong to categorize everybody into the same thing. I think that's horrific. I think, yes, if you are purposefully, intentionally dodging work, then anyway, let's the point around all of these facts and figures is I find them incredibly interesting, and I'm intrigued at the levels of people who um, who are inactive.
Mm.
A quarter of the people who can work, nearly 25%, so 22.3% of working age adults in the UK are deemed not to be actively looking for work.
I mean,
Nine,
I
9
think
million people.
but then that's really a scary situation because that means that those that are working, paying the taxes, have to carry a very, very huge number of people.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of factors around it, right? And this is why I'm probably spending a lot more time than I normally would on this. There's a number of factors. If there's 9 million people not working, not inactive, and and there's no suggestion though, Jaff, that every single one of them is claiming benefits. That's
Mm,
that's not the suggestion here.
mm,
So
mhm.
let's not get that wrong. Um, but what is happening is the number of people, and people are in such demand that people are demanding their wages. So the wage growth was one of the single biggest contributors to the inflation,
Mm,
right? So one of the things that drove inflation was people were still getting paid uh, higher rates than they should. And that's probably because of the skills shortages. Now, if we had 9 million people more, or even half of them, let's just say 4.5 million, right? More
mm,
people in the economy working. Imagine the impact of that. It'd be
mm,
amazing, wouldn't it?
of course.
So, what else is going on? The Gregs are to create 600 new jobs. They've done well, haven't they, Jeff?
Oh, amazing. I mean, it's such a great story. And do you know what? I think Greg's is fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
local institution. It's now everywhere. It's national. Started in Newcastle, and it's a cornerstone of society really in Newcastle. And I'm just so pleased to see them doing
It is,
well.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So 3,000 UK shops. Um, Greg's planned to open around 150 new shops this year. They're opening a new factory in Derby, and a whole host of things. And growth in the northeast. Here's an interesting fact and figure, Jaff. I know you're playing your keyboard or whatever you're doing, making music, but get with the program. The growth in the northeast above national average. That's a good news story, isn't it?
But there's salaries, rates.
No. So according to the NatWest Northeast PMI Business Activity Index, growth in the northeast has come in above the national average, with business activity in the region at its highest level in more than a year. Surveyed companies saw increasing demand for goods and services, with new business picking up for a second month in a row.
That's good. That's good.
So the northeast is growing, and we've already, had. Uh, we've been saying for a very long time we need to do better. We need to do better. We've got the lowest number of businesses compared to population in comparison to other areas. So we've got something like 700 businesses per 10,000 people. London has 1,200, which is crazy.
Mm.
Um,
Have you got any? So that's basically the is that new businesses, Ammar, or is that
no, that's all businesses.
performance of the business really better overall than the
Yeah, yeah.
national rate? I think that's very interesting because I feel that when I'm speaking to friends and colleagues in hospitality and leisure, I think they're saying that they're slow across the board. I'm not sure how retail
Yeah,
is.
it might be slow, but I think across the vast majority of things, the um, the vast majority of businesses, and it's services and products. So I don't think it's any particular sector that they're saying, but anyway, it's great statistics. I don't know the background to it, and obviously we'll take it with a caveat of validating that. But I'd expect NatWest to be a sound, credible organisation for them to publish that data. Jeff, more recently, been having a lot of conversations around diversity, equality, inclusion. And if you just look at this week by itself, right? If you look at what's happened with the European parliaments, if you
Mm,
look at how people feel, the level of division, the level of sort of, people feeling polarized and people having far right views. I mean, even in what some of the polls this morning, Nigel Farage has overtaken the Tories, the Conservatives,
mm.
right? And and
Wow.
and the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is right is that there seems to be a bigger drive to divide people.
Mm,
People are getting a bit tired of um, positive discrimination, right?
mhm,
So men are um, starting to question the prioritization of women, and that's and I'm just having sharing some of this, right? I'm not sharing my views, but men are
the
starting to
outrageous
question.
thought.
Sorry?
The thought, even the thought of that is outrage.
Oh, I know, shocking,
How dare the
shocking.
man?
No, but as in, so because no man would disagree that women should have the same opportunities, that women should be encouraged and supported to do whatever they want to do. But no man would ever say that's at the detriment of a man. It shouldn't be an or thing. It shouldn't be you now only focus on women, or you now only focus on Afro Caribbean people, or you now only as an Asian, right? As a British Asian, I've been brought up here. I love my region. I love this country. This is my country, um, and I'd only ever want to do what's right for this country, right? And if someone came along and said to me, "Oh, by the way, you're Asian, and because you're Asian, you're now going to be given preferential treatment above a white person," I'd be outraged. I think that's wrong,
Mm,
right? I personally, and that is my view, I personally think that's wrong. I think I should be given the same opportunity as anybody else, whether that's a woman, whether that's a white person. whether that's a less abled person, whether that's whatever it is. Now, there's a whole different conversation to be had around developing minorities and supporting minorities and creating the opportunity for minorities, so whether that's women or disabled people or people with mental health or whatever additional barriers they might have. I've experienced lots of barriers. We have. We experience barriers all the time. It's like, oh, they'll probably come into the restaurant and go, "Can I speak to the boss, please?" Anyway, it's like, oh, right, okay. For whatever reason. Anyway, we experience these barriers and we need to do something, but it needs to be an element of education, doesn't it? It needs to be an element of bringing people on the journey. Because my concern is, and this is exactly what's translating into people's views, right? My concern is that um, that people are going to get left behind, and people are getting left behind. And the vast majority of people at the minute that are getting left behind are white male, right? So
Mhm.
they see, and I don't know what it's like to be a white male. I can tell you what it's like to be a man, and I imagine there's lots of similarities and experiences of being a man. As in worrying about my wife and worrying about the kids, and always feeling slightly inferior. Are you doing enough? And never feel as if you it's good enough when you're juggling work and you're doing this, and then expected to do the opening door things and because that's in my nature. I want to open a door for a woman. I want to like give up my seat on a bus. I don't think that's demeaning. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a sign of respect. If people are offended by that, well, I can't. I'm not going to apologize for what
Mm,
I think is the decent thing to do, and I don't think
mhm,
I want to change who I am. As
mm,
in it's a case of these were things that I was told were the
mhm.
right thing growing up, and I
What
would
what
hate for my
yeah,
kids to all of a sudden go, slam a door in someone's face because, like, without keeping it open because, well, actually, it's equal now.
yeah. Because do some people think that women, if you open the door for a woman, do particular females think that that undermines their
Yeah,
feminine values and stuff,
feminine. Yeah,
femininity? I mean,
yeah,
well, I think it's sad, isn't it? Those that do think like that. I think it's like quite woke in many ways because just because the man is opening the door, it's a sign of it's an endearing kind of act. It's an endearing action, isn't it? And it should always be deemed that way because I think I think that's actually putting females um, on a pedestal and it's giving them more value than what how we value ourselves, and that's how it should be kind of interpreted. And I think there's like a woke nation or woke group who would if you're offended by that, then hey man, you're on a different planet, really. What's that to be offended about? And I understand there's like this woke culture in some places where it's just gone over the top, and I think it's gone over and it's flippant in so many ways, and I think um, that really needs to come back to how it used to be because the old-fashioned values were I really think that they were the best values, and there's so much nuances these days where you just have to be careful what you say, and I just think it's just some of it's just ridiculous. How can they even like the NHS? Apparently, they've identified 155 genders or something. Now, I'm a bit confused on that one, to be honest. Um,
yeah.
so
But
so
so if you're a nurse or if you're a doctor and you're having to learn 165 or however many genders, imagine. Thank you, Elizabeth. Imagine if you got the they them. I mean, I'll never forget Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain, right? And there was a, I would describe them, and I'm probably wrong for describing them, as a young male and a young female. And they came on a few years back. Obviously, Piers Morgan hasn't been on Good Morning Britain for quite some time now, but and he came and they came on, and one was identifying as an elephant, and the other was identifying as a bear,
Mm.
right? And Piers, understandably, and look, I'm not uncomfortable with anyone want to be anything they want. In fact, you should be whatever you want to be. Is what you should be encouraged and allowed to be. But if you and Pierce was like, okay, so you want to be an elephant. So do you live in a house? Right? Do you,
Mm.
do you do you drive a car? Do you get on a bus? Do you as in, and imagine if you turned up in hospital and the doctor goes, all right, well, you shouldn't be here. You go to a vet
Yeah.
because you
Yeah,
want to be an elephant.
yeah. That would be well, and then they'll get a bit offended. I would have thought, but hold on, you're like that's a derogatory comment. And I said, but
Yeah, and the elephants will come and
what was his name, Ammar?
stampede. There'll
Like,
be an elephant stampede. They'll come charging. Is what
what
they
would the
do.
elephant's name be though? Like
It's a,
Okujuku or
it's
something?
an
I don't know.
anyway. It's an incredibly challenging and difficult conversation. So coming back to
I don't know.
where does
I don't know how difficult it is. Like,
okay, so
but all
here's
right,
the difficulty. All
I'll be
right,
like, hey,
Jeff. So
Simba, man. Hey, Simba, come on, Simba, man. Let's calm down here. I mean, look, clearly you're not an elephant because you don't have a trunk.
well, they might. I don't know that.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you be called Dumbo then?
Well, yeah, Dumbo the elephant. Yeah, you could say, "Hey, Dumbo, hey, Dumbo." I really can't. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think it's just crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. It's like a woke society that we're living in. It's absolutely mental. I think people
So
are just
so that
off.
yeah.
It's off
So
the scale. All of this stuff. It really, really is. It's off the scale.
and you can understand. I don't agree with it, but I can understand why people everywhere are now starting to question, right? So that their tolerance, people have tolerated um, everything and everyone, and they've accepted certain things. But I personally would never want Britain to be a particular religious state. And I personally wouldn't want to change Saudi Arabia to change its political headquarters or whatever it is. As in, I don't think that is something that I would necessarily want to see, and it's incredible, right? Because a lot of this is obviously hype, media, whatever nonsense being created to create further division and whatever else. But in the main, in the main, right? And I was reflecting on this. So yesterday, I was very kindly, and I'm incredibly privileged of going along and supporting lifted ventures. So it's an initiative, government-backed initiative to support more women entrepreneurs get investment, right? And I think that's the right thing to do. I think because up until now, women haven't had the same level of investment that others have. And and some of the statistics that they shared are spurious. I don't know if I'd agree with them, but in any event, they there is something that needs to happen. So 2 pence out of every pound invested has gone to women. Right? So 2 pence. So 2% of every pound And over the last year, that's risen to 3 pence. So we need to do something about it. And it's right to do something about it. No question about it. But my concern is, and I sort of said this yesterday in a room, where they asked me to speak, and everybody else was a female speaker. Everybody else was a woman. And I started the conversation, and I sort of said, I says, I, I, I find it incredibly curious that I've been invited to come along and share the experiences of a woman when I'm not a woman. I says, but I'm delighted to be here, and I think it's the right thing to do, and I'm absolutely 100% what's going on here. And in fact, I helped, a number of women-based initiatives. I've helped a whole range of initiatives around inclusion because it's the right thing to do. But I disagree with it being done in isolation, right? I disagree with all the women going, men are the problem, right? And we need to fix this. And what we need to do is just have women. Just have women. Because all that's
But
happening.
have you heard the people say that men are the problem though, Amal?
Have I heard? Maybe not
I just
as
know
um,
personally, I don't think the women actually think that. I just think that there are groups formed to kind of create more of something that is not there at all. For me, all I can say is,
no, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that, and I
mm,
hear what you're saying. Um, and this was my point. This was exactly my point yesterday. Was um, let's not exclude the majority, right? And let's work like this room. You should like any initiative. So I'm a male ally, right? I'm really proud to be a male ally. If I look at my late mother, if I look at my wife, if I look at my daughters, if I look at women in general, they genuinely haven't had the same opportunities as men. And I'm keen to try and address that. In fact, I've been a champion of that for years, for decades, right? As in created Asian women enterprising, raised the profile of women, particularly Asian women, doing all of these things and everything else. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that we have done. But I've done it on the basis as I'm a stakeholder, and I want to learn from this as well, right? I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I can only experience, but I have experiences of when a woman hasn't. So when my mother was treated the way she was and had the horrible experiences that she had, that had an impact on me. And and
mhm.
and I think and I think this small minority of very vocal people, whether it's about women, whether it's about LGBTQ, whether it's about whatever it is, right, that have created this woke type of space place where people are scared to say anything, right? Because the amount of women that I speak to independently who absolutely agree with me, they love the fact that I'm saying something because they feel for their husbands, they feel for their partners. They're like, they're going, if this needle goes too far, I can see how that's going to affect my husband. Male suicide rates, Jeff, men killing themselves is the highest ever. Why do you think that is? Because whilst no one's blatantly saying men are the problem, that's how men feel. Jeff, if you've worked, right, you've worked in a FTSE 100 company, FTSE 50, the top 50 company in the UK, right? You've devoted your life to it. You're the chief executive of it. And all of a sudden, the government the Financial Conduct Authority, the stock exchange comes in and says, you better turn around and change your board and change your organization to have more black and ethnic people in it, and you better have more women in it. Um, do you not think you're going to go, well, um, I'm a white man. What about white men?
Well, I think the thing that you would say is that, well, hold on, I'm the individual who has brought this company to this level, and I've done it
But
very,
you
very.
can't, Jeff. You
And
can't. You can't say that.
why not? I mean, if
Well,
you say
okay.
that, then society needs to look at itself. If you can't say, "Hey, hold on, mate, I'm the individual that has brought this company to this position with the people that I saw fit for the job, and that's what I want to continue to go on and do," because you can't just employ someone because they're Asian or because they're black or because or the woman because to tick the box. They've got to be recruited on merit, hundred
Of course they
percent.
do.
I think
Of course they do.
that's the be all and end all of it all, and I think no one should be there to defend that position and and be what are you gonna you're gonna hound an individual that recruits on merit. I think it's outrageous personally that if you have to be forced to do that, I think it's ridiculous. It's absolutely
So,
ridiculous, and it's not.
so, so the point of me sharing and saying all of this, Jeff, is quite simply and quite bluntly that we have been working on inclusion for like 20 years now. And the ambition was never ever to create further division. I think every community has should have a sense of belonging. Everyone should feel as if they can be part of something, and they're part of something bigger as well. Whether you're a Jaff, whether you're a John, whether you're a Jolly, whether you're a Simba, whatever it is, you choose to be whoever you want to be
whether whether you're Dumbo.
on the basis, on the basis, on the basis that you know, you're equally supporting one another. So men, and it doesn't matter what color of man you are, men are genuinely feeling quite scared
Hmm.
because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And lots of other people share that. Anyway, this isn't a male or a divisive conversation. My point is quite simply look at what's going on where the world is now saying enough is enough, right? I mean, how can a party that probably started with the National Front now be competing with the current government that's in the party that's in power?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just. I mean, it seems to be happening across whole of Europe as well, though, isn't it?
This is my point. Is look at what's happening in France, look at what's happening in and look, Jeff, positive migration where skills and support is makes perfect sense.
I
Um,
don't think. I don't
if
think it is that policy wholly down to the immigration situation,
not
is it?
no, no, not exclusively, but
Hmm.
there's a range of things. It's being used as that, right?
But
Because
I think
uh,
the immigration situation is pretty horrendous, to be honest.
the
I
what?
think it really the immigration situation. I mean, I'm not. I'm a bit. I am confused about it myself. I'm not. I do not. I do not understand what um, the government policy is because I mean, there seem to be a lot of single-aged males coming in to the country without their families, and if they're seeking asylum or however way that they're getting into the country, and the government's letting them into the country, I'm not sure how that's what the rules are and how that's been monitored, and the fact that when you hear stories that they've been put up in five-star hotels and things like that, I think it's definitely a lot of questions to be answered. On the same token, what I do feel is really, really important is the ability to be able to bring in vetted, skilled people from around the world. I think that's really important. I think that's very vital for the economy, the growth and the development of it. I think that resource is totally different to individuals who seem to be coming in on boats and buses and lorries and A, B, C, and D, and not adding value or not the right profile to add value to the country. I think there's lots of discussions to be had around that. But you know,
I can't imagine them coming on buses, to be honest. But anyway,
yeah, well, maybe it wasn't the right phrase, but
mode
if
of
you
transport.
know what I'm
Right.
trying to say, I think there seems to be a huge
No, no, I
influx
get
of,
what you were saying. I get what you're saying.
and it's not just here, Ammar. When you see in America, there's a whole lot of talk. Elon Musk constantly talks about the number of people that are just coming over from the Mexican border, and they're just allowed to come in, but and then what they're going to come in and do, because
Vote,
you know
vote, Jack, Jack, vote.
yeah, what, and they've got the
So
right to vote, have they?
yeah.
But how can you have the right to vote when you're not integrated into the society and you're not
Well, as in,
a
it's part of
citizen?
that migration, isn't it? It's like
Do you not
it's
need to be a
part of
British
that
citizen
policy.
to vote? Can anyone
Sorry?
vote then? Can anyone vote coming into the country, or do you need to be like a British
No, no,
citizen?
no. There's different rules for different countries, but as I
Okay.
understand it, the open border policy in America allowed for hundreds of thousands of South Americans to come and settle there and consequently get citizenship. And as they get in citizenship, they get the right to vote. So it's like if you get citizenship here in the UK, then yes, you get the right to vote.
Hmm.
So I mean, look, the challenge is there's a whole host and range of issues that at times get overly simplified, and the natural thing is to hear people talk about migration, talk about people coming in and taking everybody's jobs, and drowning the health services and drowning local school spaces and all of that. And there's probably an element of that. I don't
Yeah.
think that's exclusively the challenge. I think there is, without a doubt, a conversation to be had around how you bring people on a journey with you, and rather than further dividing communities. For me, it's absolutely critical. If you are going to focus on a particular part of the community because it's a minority, then you need to do that in partnership and in harmony with the majority, right? So if we're talking about supporting women, we need to get men involved in that conversation and understand what that looks like. The other thing is, it shouldn't be a one size fits all. I know so many women who are genuinely so happy at looking after the house. And I
Mm.
know a number of women who actually enjoy going to work, and the husband might want to look after the house, or they might not want to look, and all of that works. Why should a housewife or a house husband, but a housewife in the
Mm.
main, feel as if they're forced to change and all of a sudden, start wearing pants as opposed to a skirt or a dress or a shalwar kameez or whatever it is, or a sari? Why should they start wearing a toti? Why should they start wearing? Why should they start? I find it extraordinary. Anyway, we'd love to hear other people's views, and that's why we've created this campaign called Inclusion by Default, right? So, Inclusion by Default, it's a campaign that hopefully addresses a number of these things that we're talking about. So, if I'm I'm a young white boy from Walker or from Scotswood or from Middlesbrough or wherever it is, or Ryup, and I'm sat there thinking, oh my gosh, all I ever hear is my dad saying, all of these people have took our jobs and look at what's going on. And then I see people on the television like Nigel Farage going, it's because he's just purely targeting the minority. So it's like his whole policy is just the 5 million people out of 70 odd, and he's like, oh, these, let's create a separate island and put them on it and whatever else and send them back.
He's always talking about the Muslims, especially, isn't he? Good old Nigel.
Yeah, he is.
I
He is.
see a lot. He was always in the British Courier Awards, every single one of them, and
Oh,
he's very well. He's a very very good speaker, Nigel. Unbelievable speaker.
yeah, I've heard him speak a few times, and I've
He's
met him a couple
brilliant.
of times. And actually, I don't dislike Nigel. I just
Yeah,
think what he's fueling is a popularism. So there's the
yeah,
so the and here's the problem, right? On the one side, you've got 2 or 3% who are the outspoken, who are on a mission to to question everything and everybody, and they're encouraging everybody and everything. So if anybody speaks out against any of these whatever they're described as, they are then they are just taken down, and because of that, no one has the courage to have a conversation. This is the problem. No one has the courage to have a conversation, right? Because if you do, they're going to come and get you.
no.
So
I
people
mean,
people just don't say anything.
are you talking about conversation with someone like Nigel Farage?
No, I'm talking about me saying, well, I don't think we should be prioritizing um, minority people without involving the broader community. And I don't think that 98% of the population agree with the 2% that are flying all of the flags and everything else.
Yeah,
That that's what I'm talking about. As in, yeah, because if you've got a view, I mean, look, JFK, right? Not JFK, J.K. Rowling.
yeah.
She's got a particular view, and that's her belief. Now, to some people, they might be offended by it, but to then take her down because she's got a particular view, to try
Just
and
for
discredit her and bully
oh,
her and abuse
yeah,
her,
and
things like
it's
that.
horrendous
So there's a,
what they're doing.
and this is where the world's gone, right? Because everyone, I was reflecting on this, and as I'm writing my next article for Northern Insight, I was reflecting on it, and I was just thinking, we were all a reasonably tolerant space and place, right? Everyone. I'm not talking about any particular community, right? This isn't about white or black or Asian or whatever. People are just tolerant, right? And people were tolerant. Now I know lots of nuns, right? And I'm picking on nuns for a special reason, right? But I know lots of nuns, right? These are religious people, primarily white, right? They're part of the church. They cover their hair, cover their heads, they cover themselves, and they'd be horrified at seeing a white girl going down the big market wearing a miniskirt.
Mhm,
They would,
mhm.
but they tolerated it. They didn't have to agree it. They didn't have to accept it, but they tolerated it, right? And vice versa. I imagine if you're a girl going down the big market wearing a miniskirt, and you see your nun, likelihood is you're not going to see your nun in the big market. But in any event, you will then go out of respect. You'd go that person's made that choice, and actually, out of respect, I'd be going, what a wonderful choice they've made. But I don't have an issue with either one of them, right? I might not agree with it, but I will tolerate it. There's certain things, there's certain things that I accept. So the first stage is I tolerate a lot more than I accept. Right? So for me to accept something, I have to almost believe in the same way. I have to say, feel in the same way or whatever it is. So I'll accept it. So I tolerate a lot more. And I think the challenge is because people have pushed the tolerance, never mind the acceptance, forget the acceptance, but people have pushed that tolerance to such a degree, people aren't prepared to tolerate it anymore.
Yeah. Ammar, we've only got a couple of minutes left. So do you think Nigel Farage is gonna could potentially give the big two a push for their money?
Well, he already is, and he's targeting the Conservatives. This is what the challenge, and as a consequence, Labour's it's going to drive more voters towards Labour, is what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Because if
So
you
Keir Starmer was the next Prime Minister.
Well, I wouldn't bet on it, but if I was a betting man, yeah, I would say so. But I mean, obviously, we can't talk about politics here. We're impartial, and actually, I think the vast majority of people that I come across are really disengaged and disenfranchised with everyone in politics.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, a couple of things. We've got a round table, an inclusion by default round table on the uh, 26th of June in Durham. Opportunity to have this type of conversation. Come along, check it out. And then we've got an Armed Forces Covenant signing here, special curry club on the 28th of June, right here at the SME Centre of Excellence as part of Armed Forces Day. And I'm super excited to be going to London to the King's Trooping of the Colour for tomorrow, Jalf.
Amazing.
So I'm super excited.
Give him a little pinch for us when you see him.
Yeah, it's I must admit I really like King Charles. I feel as if there's a bit more authenticity, a bit more genuinity in all of the royal family, and it's nice. And I'm so sad and sorry to hear of their illnesses and ailments. But yes, really excited to be and really privileged and honoured to be going along. So I'll let everyone know how it was. But until next week, it's a goodbye from me and a very slow goodbye from
me.
you, Jeff.
Excellent.
So anyway, football. What's happening, Jeff? Very quickly.
Well, the Euros kick off today. Hopefully, our teams do well. England and Scotland. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, we can bring it home.
Yes, it's coming home, wherever that is. So whatever you do, have a wonderful weekend. Lots going on. Yeah, I think we'll be back absolutely with some guests. We've got some guests coming on. I'm going to get Sir John Hall on and see what where this conversation goes. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye from me, Paul.